without meaning, Wanderer. It is chaos.
Let us hunt those who have fallen to darkness. The dark should fear me. Cleansing blood with silver, I release them from their pain.
Hey guys, I hope all is well. This is Starlight Blade, and have you ever wanted to play a build that's always inches from death, on the precipice of destruction and the brink of unaliving itself, yet it benefits off of being on low life while also arming itself with a barrier? No? Well, too bad, because I am back at it again with another off-meta build here in Diablo 4 Season 10. And boy, is it a good time to play Diablo 4 right now, because I don't know what they did, but everybody doing hella damage out here. And for anyone that doesn't know, I make and play only off-meta builds and see how far I can take them into the endgame. And this is literally my strongest build yet, because it was my first build in the recent few seasons that was able to take down nearly all T4 bosses very comfortably, very smoothly, doing I'd say about 5 to 10 billion damage. And for the first time ever, I was able to take down Tormented for Belial, which I've never done before, so that was awesome. And then I was able to even go head to head with Tier 4 Lilith, that Tormented Rooster, and I got as far as phase 1 down pretty easily, which is honestly not too bad for an off-meta non-S tier build, especially considering I haven't even ever come close to taking down Tier 4 phase 1 in the recent few seasons, ever since that huge update that changed all the numbers, where it was much harder to kill Lilith Tier 4, because in the past it was such a breeze. But yeah, anyways, I had so much fun playing with this build, and if you like what you see and hear so far, please hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more videos. Alrighty, so as you can see on screen, this is essentially a Heartseeker build, and with the new update to Forceful Arrow, where it knocks back and immobilizes an enemy, and anything immobilized this way takes times 50 damage. This does include bosses, so oftentimes just as the boss is about to get staggered, I throw my caltrops, throw my smoke grenade, then I'll shadow step in to get close, then Forceful Arrow to cause that stagger itself, and then I'll move back to enable Deadeye and just unload all my arrows on them, and it just does so much damage. And initially when I saw the update on Forceful Arrow and I thought about the name Heartseeker, one such character came to mind, and that was League of Legends' very own Vayne, who has a Heartseeker skin, and I just thought everything just clicked so perfectly for me to make this build. And yeah, I really enjoyed putting that together and making a build that actually kind of works. And as far as the playstyle goes, it's very simple. I just run around and hold the Heartseeker button and it auto targets. Occasionally I'll dash or shadow step for a damage boost, and if there's a crowd of mobs, I'll throw caltrops and smoke grenade for an even bigger damage boost. And then if there's ever a big boy that comes close, I'll use my Forceful Arrow and go back up, back up.
Why are you running? Why?
And the seasonal perks are pretty awesome too, because they cause my skills to cost life, but won't put me at less than 10%, while increasing my damage, and also cause my basic abilities to be randomly imbued with one of the 3 imbuments, which lets me take advantage of some of the passive skills from each of the imbuments on the skill tree. So that's also very nice. And all in all, it's a pretty solid build. It got me straight from beginning to endgame. It's very interesting to put together because of all the factors. Being low life, always having to generate a barrier can get a tad bit complex in that sense. And leveling wasn't the best, honestly. From levels 1 to 20, it was a little rough, because I'm only playing with Heartseeker and Forceful Arrow. At the very beginning stages is not honestly the best, especially if you're not using a core ability. So maybe it'll be better to level with a core ability like Heartseeker and Penetrating Shot or Barrage or something. I didn't want to do any of that. I just wanted to use my main skills from the get-go. Tiny bit rough in the beginning, but trust me, it smooths out so nicely once you get to a little bit of a higher level. Even before Paragon Boards, even before you hit Paragon, things do smooth out pretty much when you're like in your 20s and 30s. And yeah, it's not bad at all. It's pretty great. Alright, so going over the gear for my helm, I have Undying Aspect. So this is very important. only because of my runes. I have Fail and Zal, which every time I become injured, which is less than like I think like 35% life, I gain an extra 20% increased max life for about 20 seconds. So this is important because the barrier that I generate is based off of max life. So if I have more max life, then I'm generating a bigger barrier. And one of my other seasonal perks makes it so I don't ever go above 50% max life. So what this basically does is I'm constantly going into injured, coming out of injured, going into injured, and coming out of injured. And it's generating me 1,000, whatever points that this rune system uses. I forgot the name of it. But basically, yeah, I'm always at 20% increased max life, which is really, really nice, because my barrier pretty much puts me at like 10 to 11k life, quote unquote, fake life, whatever. Other than that, I have just life, armor, resistances. Second wind is very important for barrier generation, and lucky hit chance as well. And for my chest, I have one of the seasonal special items, special pieces of gear. This is Crown of Lucian on a chest piece. Very, very different because Crown of Lucian is a helmet. So I think this is really, really cool that they implemented something like this, and I think they should definitely keep this in the game. This is absolutely amazing. So yeah, Crown of Lucian times 18 damage every time I cast Heartseeker, basically, up to 5 times. So this is pretty much 90 times increased damage. Absolutely amazing. It does drain my resources, but I'll talk about that later. And I have Pak and Seh. So this causes wolves to spawn every time I spend resources, basically. So I'm casting Heartseeker and wolves are spawning. The point of the wolves is because of my next item, Pain Gorger. So me doing damage myself won't ever proc Pain Gorger because I'm always casting a basic ability, but my wolves, when they attack, they'll cause that mark to appear, and that will proc Pain Gorger's effect. That will explode to do 125 times damage whenever I cast my Heartseeker. So I'm attacking with Heartseeker, it generates wolves, the wolves attack enemies, puts marks on them, I keep attacking with Heartseeker, those marks pop, lots of AoE damage, awesome piece of gear, plus 5 to basic skills, it's really good. Next up, I've got my legs, very standard, plus 4 to Heartseeker. You're definitely going to want this because whatever source of plus ranks you can get, you have to utilize as much as you can because each rank is so much more damage. Other than that, it's just got life, armor, plus the second wind, which is very important for barrier generation, lucky hit chance, and I have Umbrus that will generate Dark Shrouds for me for free. And then for my gems, I just have plus 40 strength and plus 40 willpower. Just ignore the willpower part. I think that was a mistake. I was rolling with that this whole time. I had even no idea. Anyways, moving on. For my boots, I have Penitent Greaves for that 22 times damage and plus the movement speed, extra crit. It's also really nice. For my crossbow, and I do want to be running a crossbow, partly because of the cosplay. Vayne does use a crossbow in the game. Also, it does give me vulnerable damage, and I thought it would be nice to spread out my damage values and not just put everything into crit damage. I think it works out a little better that way. Other than that, it's got Moonrise, which is very important for basic skills, and it's got basic skill gems, which is a nice damage boost here, and then it's got Dex, max life, crit damage, chance for Heartseekers to cast twice, and damage per Dark Shroud, which gives a lot of raw damage. For my amulet, it's nothing crazy. I just wanted the percent Dex, and Frigid Finesse is insane. I think this is an extra times 30 damage if I'm not mistaken. Other than that, it's just got crit chance, innervation, which is nice, damage for Dark Shroud, and then it's got adaptability, which is also very important for basic ability builds. And then how can you have Crown of Lucian without the good old Ring of Starless Skies? So I said I was coming back to it later. Yes, Crown of Lucian drains a lot of resources. Ring of Starless Skies mitigates that a little bit, and then gives me times 50 damage. Absolutely insane ring. When you are masterworking it, make sure you don't go plus to core skills. That's very useless. If you can, just do plus to attack speed, plus to lucky hit chance. I have plus to crit, which is also nice. And then I just put gems on my jewelry to fill out resistances. And then I have Dark Dance on my second ring. Dark Dance is very important because it gives you times 80 damage for skills that consume life to deal damage. So everything ties in all together. My basic skills cost me life, giving me Dark Dance times 80 damage. Really nice combo. I think it worked out really nice. Other than that, it's just got damage, vulnerable damage, chance to make enemies vulnerable, plus innervation and damage for Dark Shroud. And then for my first sword, and yes, I am running swords because of the extra crit damage, and daggers are pretty useless for their inherent affix because you're not supposed to be standing close range anyways, because you have the Deadeye passive. So you run swords plus the crit damage. I got dex, damage, crit damage, chance for Heartseeker to cast twice, and damage per Dark Shroud, all on True Sight because I am running Inner Sight. Inner Sight basically gives me unlimited energy and a boost to crit chance, but because of this aspect, I also get times 100% increased crit damage and just straight up 50% increased damage while my Inner Sight is active. So that's a lot of damage right there, which is really nice. And then lastly, I have Shard of Rathiel. How can you have a basic ability build without this sword? Plus the 4 basics, attack speed, bunch of stats, maximum resource, basic skills deal times 150% increased damage. Absolutely a game changer. And then I just threw a topaz on there for more basic damage. Could not get better than this, honestly. Alright, so that's it for gear. For the skill tree, you want to get primary Heartseeker. Because of it ricochets, it's much more beneficial for clear speed. And then you just want to get fundamental forceful arrow. Like I said, for the times 50% increased damage, you just get close. Whatever got close to you, boom, knockback, bunch of damage boost, dead. Over here, you got sturdy plus 3 points in case things get close. You know, you get damage reduction from there. And then I get into methodical shadow steps for more damage reduction. And for caltrops, you could go methodical. I chose not to because I wanted the extra crit chance. So I have disciplined caltrops here. And then I maxed out weapon mastery, trick attacks, and unstable elixirs, all really great sources of damage. Just put 1 point into dash, don't need more than that. And then I have countering smoke grenade for the cooldown. I can kind of spam it on bosses and mobs. Max out malice, max out exploit, and then you could go the subverting dark shroud. This is not too useful for me because of undying. I already have that, gives me back life. So I just decided to keep the crit chance aspect of there. And then, like I said earlier, since I have triple imbuement technically on my Heartseeker, randomly, I can allocate Shadow Crash for a more stun buildup. I get 1 point into Deadly Venom just so I can get Alchemical Advantage, which gives me attack speed and lucky hit chance, and then Debilitating Toxins, so whatever I hit, they're doing a lot less damage to me. So that's a really nice source of defense. And then, of course, Frigid Finesse. Right now, it's doing times 60, giving me times 60. If I take 1 point off, it's times 50. So every point I think is just times 10 damage. So that's why it's really important to have that on your amulet if you can. Each point of Frigid Finesse is just times 10 damage, is really good. And then, of course, I have Deadeye times 30 damage if I'm standing far enough away, which I usually try to always do. Then I have Alchemist's Fortune, which gives me more lucky hit. And then Second Wind, very important for barrier generation. 135% of my max life currently. So yeah, I'm at about 10,000 total, especially if I'm factoring in my plus 20% life boost from my runes. And then I have Innervation. I get back a ton of energy very reliably. And then lastly, Victimize for those juicy explosions. Really nice for clearing mobs. And then for my Paragon board, for my starting board, I have Combat. And then I try to get some extra imp nodes. This just gives me a ton of crit damage and then some energy restoration. For my second board, I have Eldritch Bounty. So I'm just basically doing times 50% increased damage because my Heartseeker is imbued with Poison, Shadow, and Cold damage randomly. So this is just a huge damage boost. You definitely want to get this second. And then over here I have Control. Also a huge damage boost, times 20 damage right off the bat. And then on the next board I have Exploit Weakness, which is times 45 damage to vulnerable. And then I also take 20% less damage. So that's really nice, especially because my ring also gives me a chance to make all enemies vulnerable. So that is some nice synergy there. And then for here I have Devious, and then I got all of these magic nodes because Devious will boost them all up. So that's really lovely. Juicy boost in damage and some stats all around. And then this also gives me times 10 damage, so that's really good. And then for my fourth board, I have Cheap Shot, times 30 damage, doubled against crouch control enemies, basically times 60 damage to staggered bosses. Absolutely amazing. You definitely want to get this, especially once you hit Torment 3, Torment 4. This will really help you with the farming. And then over here I have Headhunter. If I got, I'm only at 204 Paragon right now. if I got like, you know, a lot more, maybe 250, I would pretty much get all of these dex nodes because those would be huge for damage and dodge chance. And then it would activate pretty much this and maybe some other nodes where that would require dex. But other than that, I just have this for now. And then it gives me times 15 damage to elites, which is really nice. And then lastly, I have Dance Macrobee. So this is why my Shadow Step and my dash is giving me damage boost. I straight up get times 50 for 10 seconds. Absolutely amazing. And then lastly, I have Canny, which gives me a bunch of non-phase damage. Pretty much all my arrows are imbued, so I'm getting a lot of damage through this as well. And then times 20 damage on top of that. And then for my Mercenaries, I have Raher. I have no idea how to say his name. I just pretty much stick to the right, get this right path and stick to the left. He just gives you a bunch of damage. It's really nice. Every time he comes, you know, drops the ground time. He also gives me like a barrier, which is nice, like a bubble. So that's pretty cool. Times 25 damage, awesome. Times 15 damage, also awesome. And then for my reinforcement, I have Variana. So every time I'm casting, pretty much whenever I attack, every now and then she'll just give me a huge damage boost. In the form of attack speed and a lot of movement speed, and also make me unstoppable. So that's also a nice quality of life. And lastly, for my seasonal perks, I have Unpredictable Alchemy. This is why my arrows are imbued randomly with any of the 3 imbuments. Then I have Accelerating Chaos. I just got this because I don't know what else to put. It just seems like the best second option. Third, I have Marred Guard. So this is what makes me not be able to have more than 50% life, but it gives me a huge boost to armor, barrier, and max res. So I'm pretty much always at about 85% max, 85% res to everything. So I'm capped out on armor, capped out on res. It's a very good quality of life for defense. And lastly, you have a Beast Cornered. So more damage based on more life missing. I'm pretty much always at 10% life. Except for when my inner sight is active, because I don't really lose life since it is always at infinite. So other than that, pretty much this is a huge damage boost right there. Alright, so there you have it. That's the build. I just wanted to showcase the tier 4 Lilith that I took down phase 1, and then compare it to the tier 3 Lilith, which I killed her so hard that she didn't even know she died. She kind of just glitched out and didn't break off the rest of the platforms. It was kind of funny. So yeah, that was very interesting. The fight honestly got a lot better over the last few seasons. To me, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like in this season they lowered her health overall, just a little bit, because, you know, I was able to kill her better. Maybe I'm just doing a lot more damage, I don't know, but this is definitely, whatever they did is a step in the right direction. And I will say though that tier 4 phase 2 is still quite a nightmare. I think they gave her more health, but I'm not too sure on that. She also seems much harder to stagger, which sucks because that fight has a lot of death mechanics and a lot of one-hit KO mechanics, as it always does. Anyways, here's the jewel of this build, my tier 4 Belial boss kill. Please enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time.